Get the Intel, the podcast meant for those of us trying to find out what the hell is going on in the field. Here we discuss tools, techniques, and approaches that you can implement to streamline operations and let you focus on your craft.
Hello, it's Chad Gill here. Well, this episode is brought to you by Workforce Recon. Workforce Recon is a project tracking software that connects the office to the field crews. Their app, Field Recon, is built with a field-first mentality. Developed for contractors by contractors, it includes time and asset tracking, messaging, and job documentation, along with scheduling, all in one place, so you can see what's going on in the field. So if you're tired of finding out what happened days later, check us out at workforcerecon.com to see your operations in real time. All right, so this is Chad, and joining me today is Phil Ogilby. He is a contractor turned serial entrepreneur and co-founder of Stack Estimating. So, Phil, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you being here, and see if we can learn about estimating software.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me, Chad. And by the way, I'll right off the bat, shameless plug. Obviously, I'm here. I'd like for you to check out our product Stack, but Field Recon is a powerful tool. I've seen it several years ago, and Chad and I have had a lot of interactions around it. It's a terrific solution. I encourage you to check it out. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, how did you come to? I know it's an interesting story. So, how did you come to be in Stack or in estimating in general?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a fun little story to tell, and people are generally entertained by it. I started my career as a sheet metal worker. My parents said, Philip, we have no money for college, but your dad has an opportunity to get you into the Sheet Metal Workers Union, and this is in 1977. And I was just getting ready to graduate in 78, and they told me what the sheet metal union guys were making, and I said, I'll sign up for that. Let's do that, right? So back in those days, college loans weren't that easy to come by, and I wasn't the best student. So to me, the construction field made a lot of sense, and I jumped right in. Quickly found myself, I learned a lot in the building trades, quickly found myself in a rough spot, though. In the early 80s, you're not quite old enough to remember, Chad, but inflation was raging. Not quite as bad as it is now, but a little worse than it is now, actually. But inflation was bad. Jimmy Carter was in the White House, and I got laid off, right? And by then I had made just enough money to acquire myself a mortgage, and I had a baby and another one on the way, and a wife. And I thought, gee whiz, what am I going to do now? So I went out and bought a book on how to roof your house. Because I've been around roofers forever, but I'd never roofed a house. And I thought, well, if I get into residential roofing, everybody needs a roof, no matter what the economy's like. If your roof's leaking, you got to fix it, right? So that made sense to me. So I read the book, and then I went down to the Yellow Pages office in Dayton, Ohio, and I signed up for the Yellow Pages. And the Yellow Pages are, back in the day, they were what Google is today, right? So I'll never forget coming home and telling my then wife, I said, honey, I sorry about this. I know we're unemployed and don't have any money, but I just committed to $600 a month for a Yellow Pages ad for our new roofing business, and I thought she was going to divorce me on the spot, but fortunately she did not, and we started our roofing business that way. One thing led to another. I actually grew. The business grew a fair amount. I got up to about 50 employees. We started doing commercial work, so fair amount of experience in the Dayton market area, Dayton Springfield area there around roofing. But along the way, I brought home my first personal computer, and my son Justin was one of those computer genius kind of kids. And my oldest son Justin, and I'll never forget, I came home one day, and I was using a spreadsheet then to build estimates for my roofing business. And Justin had built a game using Quick Basic, and he had stuff shooting at each other on the computer screen. And I thought, that's really cool. What if we could maybe build some software here to help the family business? And so he was, I think, 12 at the time. And so, he was all in, he was ready. I told him we'd pay him for whatever we sold. And like anything, it took longer than I thought. We bought more books than I thought it was going to take, more software. But by the time Justin was 17, we'd sold $500,000 worth of our BuildWare Pro estimating software. And that's how I made the transition out of the building trades. I thought, this is a wonderful business, and I'm helping people out. And along the way, we're doing a good thing for the construction community. So that's really how I made the transition out. In the early days, Buildware allowed you to measure blueprints on your computer screen, which is really unusual in those days because everybody was shipping big rolls of paper. And when the internet came along, it occurred to me, what if we created a solution, create a software program to run on the internet that would allow general contractors to distribute their invites to bid via this web-based solution that we were going to build. And my original idea was it would give us a bigger market for Buildware. And, frankly, like so many things, I wrote a business plan. That's what you do in those days. And this was during the original .com boom. So pretty soon I hired a guy to help me, introduce me to investors and all that kind of stuff. And I traveled all over the country. I was in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Boston. Finally convinced a guy in Cincinnati. Everybody loved what I was doing, but nobody wanted me to write a check to a roofer from Cincinnati. I mean, I didn't fit the pedigree, right? I wasn't from I hadn't gone to Stanford. My dad wasn't the project manager at big GC on the West Coast. None of that stuff. So I didn't fit the profile. Everybody loved it. Nobody wanted to write a check. But I got a guy in Cincinnati by the name of Andrew Green. Convinced him, and I'll never forget. He said, "I'm going to give you $500,000 to start this thing and get it off the ground. I'd just like to hopefully get my money back at some point." And so that's how we started iSqFt.com, which a lot of contractors out there will recognize that name. That was my first real major startup. I sure learned a lot through that process, but along the way, we did survive. Of course, iSqFt survived the .com crash where most others didn't. And I hired a CEO guy by the name of Dave Conway along the way to kind of help me grow the business. Dave was very good at raising money. Didn't know much about construction, but he was very good at raising money. And so I hired Dave, and we just kind of went down the road. And Dave, ultimately, the business has been a big success story. I think it's now owned by Roper Technologies, based out of Cincinnati. It's part of ConstructConnect. But in the early days there, after I hired Conway, I kind of got tired of not running my own show anymore. And so Justin and I left, and along with my wife Jane, and we started Stack. The idea was to really build in the cloud, Buildware sort of in the cloud, a modern day version of Buildware, which allowed you to do takeoff and estimating in one solution. And that's the journey. And turn around now, I'm north of 60 years old and been in this game a long time. But that's how we got here.
And Justin's still in it with you.
He is, yeah. Justin is. He's our head of product, and Stack's been a tremendous success story all by itself. I mean, we're over 200 employees now. We'll do 20 plus million this year, and we're growing 40% year over year. So people love what we built. It has a dramatic impact on their businesses, and it's been a terrific success story.
So when you're talking about it, and that's what we're looking for, is things that'll give contractors an ability to make an impact on their business. So what is it about, not just Stack, but estimating software in general that gives them that huge advantage that they may not be doing? I mean, I guess paper and pencil is what we're competing against.
Yeah, it's remarkable, Chad. Even today, I mean, how many even larger companies that we talk to, right? And because we talk to hundreds of them every week, and most of them are still using paper and pencil, or they're using an old desktop-based product that they inherited from the old man when they got there, or their dad used to use this thing or that thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not widely adopted like it should be. And one of the things that I learned, it's interesting. A couple of years ago, just before COVID, I got an invite from Steve Shabbat, is our local congressman in Cincinnati, and he invited me to come to Washington D.C. and actually speak to a House subcommittee on small business success, and specifically around construction and technology. And it was very interesting. I was very honored to be there, and I look back fondly on the experience. But doing the research for it, I was really struck by the high failure rate of construction. And a lot of folks don't realize it, right? It's very easy to get into construction. It's very hard to sustain success through the years. So, in fact, the stats are, Chad, that you have a 35% chance. If you start today, you have a 35% chance of still being in business in 5 years in the construction building trades. And that's really a staggering statistic if you think about it. And it's something that's a lot of people aren't aware of. But if you think about it, it's an easy business to get into. Most guys are like me, right? You learn your trade in the field, and then you're unemployed or you're mad at your boss or whatever. Pretty soon you start your own business. Most of us didn't have a lot of formal business training, and so that's why I love what you're doing with the training and the coaching. I think it's so critical to the business. But one of the things that sort of fed that failure rate that I discovered during the research for my talk A big thing that they talked about feeding that failure rate is a failure to adopt technology. And so one of the very first things that I always encourage folks to do is we started out as takeoff software. We added estimating to it. It's now a complete solution. We're really building a platform, but what estimating software can do for you is you can bid the same amount of work in far less time. So it pumps up your volume. You'll literally, if you think about what we do in construction, right? I've heard it said we sort of flip coins every day, right? Every time you put a bid out on the street, you're flipping a coin. Estimating software allows you to flip a lot more coins. So it's going to drive up your revenue. The good news is, with a solution like ours, you've got takeoff and estimating combined. Not only are you much faster, but you're also going to dramatically improve your accuracy and your completeness. So you're not missing things. And so it really has a big impact on the top line, really as well as the bottom line. But I encourage folks, if you're not doing it today, you need to add computerized estimating and takeoff into your life, because it's a game changer for contractors.
What about, so when we do that, like we'll take on a client and say, look, we need to start using an estimating software or something. And they're like, yeah, but there's just so much nuance to what I do. And they'll never really be able to get it to give me a number that I can trust, and I'm sure you guys run into that. How do you counter that?
Yeah, one of the things that, and again, it goes really back to my experience of just doing it myself, right? But we built Stack. We didn't build Stack. With Stack, you can have multiple sort of workflows based upon how you want to do things. In fact, we've just integrated external data, cost data from BNI. So now you can go in and you say, I want to polish a concrete floor, and I want to use this type of polish, and I want to do it in Columbus, Ohio, right? And you can pull up the market data rates for both labor and material. That's one approach you can take. You can also take a different approach, which is, I know my cost of material, I know my coverage rates, I know how much I need for this, that, and the other thing. I know my labor rates, so I can plug all that into a simple assembly or a series of items that connect to an assembly. So we really have designed it from the beginning to let you do things the way you do it, but you're really putting structure behind it and sort of restricting yourself to prevent things like spreadsheet errors and fat fingering a formula, overwriting a formula in your spreadsheet, which costs you tens of thousands of dollars, and you don't even realize it. So we put a structure and a process behind it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be our process. It can be your process, and that's sort of the beauty of it, really.
And is it, so when you're doing that, using like a template, do you find that there, I know we use estimating templates. We use assemblies that have kind of check boxes and stuff like that. We found that it's just a good way to guide people so that you don't forget. Sometimes when you do something all day, every day, and you feel like it's just, just memorization or something like that, you'll overlook that common step that you just forgot to have it in there. It's like the beauty of checklists,
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's like a gigantic automated, much more advanced checklist. It's really what it is at the end of the day, and you build it yourself for your own business. You and I have talked about this offline, right? But successful business people build a formula, and then they follow that formula. They build a recipe for their business, just like they're building you're going to bake a cake. You build a recipe for your business, and then you put everybody that comes to work for you, everybody follows that same recipe, and that's how you scale. That's how you grow. If you're still doing things rapidly and haphazardly and running around like your hair's on fire, that's not a recipe for success. You have to build that. In order to bake that success cake, you've got to really put that recipe together and then insist that everybody follow it. And that's what we give people with Stack as well, especially now that we've expanded beyond just takeoff into estimating and now project management and even bid management in the front end. So it's really about following that process.
It is. And that's, for my coaching clients that I do through Lam, it's the same thing. I just never want to be held hostage again. I've been in a situation where, you had people you just couldn't do without, and that's not good for you personally. It's not good for your company. It's not good for any of that stuff. And so when you have technologies like this, estimating software with formulas and choices, even if it just puts guardrails around what you do, it makes you not only more scalable and sellable if you ever wanted to sell your business, but it also means you're not tied to any, one tragedy, one employee leaving can just cripple your business as a whole.
That's something we should talk about, Chad, for your audience too, because I'm really struck by this, and I've been talking to our success team about it and our account management folks. We hear far too often today, hey, I can't bid any new work, I'm covered up. Right? That's what we hear. We talk to somebody, hey, business has been good, I'm covered up, I can't bid any new work. And that's sort of for a guy like me that's been in this game for 25 years and known hundreds of contractors and dozens of them personally, both successful ones and failed ones. That's sort of a death rattle, believe it or not, right? Because of what you just described. And that is, I tell people all the time, what you're going to bid tomorrow, that project you're bidding tomorrow, today and tomorrow, that very likely might save your year, right? Because that big job you got coming up, you're so excited about, you got that fat margin with, there's something you missed. There's something that's going to happen. Or, we had a kettle blow up in front of a Sears store way back, 25 years ago in the roofing business. I mean, things happen that you're not prepared for and you're not aware that are going to happen. So when you tell me you're going to stop bidding work for a period of time so you can catch up, that's a death rattle. And I've seen it happen. I had a personal friend, I'll never forget, we went on a houseboat trip with him, and Paul was telling me, I had $6 million worth of backlog, 3 times the backlog my dad ever had, blah, blah, blah. I saw him 2 years later, Paul was out of business. And Paul followed that. Paul fell into that trap, right? He stopped bidding work. So no, you got to continue to bid work. You got to continue to build that pipeline. And that's one of the things that is really gratifying about what we do. I'll give you a great story. We had one of my best sales guys is a guy named Luke Holden, and Luke's been with me now for 6 or 7 years. I mean, almost since the very early days of Stack. And
I think Luke told me on Stack.
I bet he did. Yeah. And Luke's still an account executive with us. Luke was at World of Concrete 2 years ago in Vegas, right? This was the COVID one, right before COVID happened, and we had a guy come up and shake his hand and said, "Luke, I wanted to thank you for putting me in a Stack a couple of years ago. I bet you don't remember me." And Luke didn't remember him, but yeah, I said, "Good to meet you." And the guy stands there right on the show floor in front of all of us and tells him the story. He said, "Luke, I was doing just under $600,000 in revenue when we started with Stack, and 2 years later, I just passed $6 million in revenue last year." And we had changed this guy's life. He gave us a ton of credit. Obviously, there's much more that goes into it, and it's not at all that easy. But the solution really changed his life. I mean, that's sort of the ability you've got to really kind of put your business at scale in terms of the top line, which is really exciting.
So, what are the trends that you see? Like, what is the future in estimating? Like, what's on the roadmap coming forward?
Honestly, it's amazing to me still that we compete with a lot of old desktop software. And what people really look for today is interoperability. And by that, I mean, they want the data from their takeoff and their estimate and their bid calendar to all flow into their QuickBooks or their project management software. People want their data to flow between applications. And unfortunately, a lot of our industry is still stuck on the old desktop computer with the little key you got to plug in and all that stuff. And being in the cloud has been a game changer for us. But I see it as a significant trend. Right now, it gives us a big advantage. A lot of our competitors are figuring that out and trying to jump on, and I'm sure there'll be more and more of us. We have what's called an API sort of behind the scenes in Stack, and most people won't know what that is, but your tech guys will. But the API is like a plumbing interface, right? So it gives you a series of sort of nozzles and pipes that you can connect to pull and push data in and out of our solution. A lot of other companies are starting to catch on and do that kind of stuff. Procore has been a big factor in the industry. Like a lot of folks, come to us and they need to push data or pull data out of Procore or push it into Procore. We build a Procore connector for that kind of stuff. But I would say interoperability is the biggest sort of trend I see, and it's really a game changer if you think about it. We're looking forward to we've so much so that we've dedicated an entire team in our new development budget for 2022. We've got a whole small team that does nothing but focus on connecting to other applications. I think that's really the future of software in general.
No, I agree. And I think the world's getting smaller too. I mean, I know for some of my clients, and one of the benefits of a cloud-based is that you can work anywhere in the world. If you got a strong internet connection, you're good to go. And so, we have estimators that are based all over the world, estimating work, for us, for our clients and stuff like that. And it's just something that makes sense because they can work opposite shift of you. They can do things like that. I think more and more of that is coming as well. Just as people specialize, and get down. I mean, pretty soon you're going to have just guys that hammer left-handed on roofing nails on the slope. I mean, it's going to get to specialized trades, and even more so as things become more complicated, more critical. Doing that.
Yeah, no question. No question.
Well, that is great. So, people want to check out Stack, go to stackct.com. Is that correct?
StackCT.com. Yeah, it's you can do a free trial. Yeah, it's actually not even a free trial. You can use a limited version of the product for free. So I'd encourage you to go in there and upload some drawings and start banging around with it if you haven't seen it before. But yeah,
it's something we recommend to our clients too. And like I said, I think if you're not doing digital takeoffs and digital estimating, I think those sheets will be. It's a long ways from a spreadsheet, and it's a lot of these things. And yes, you're going to need to know your cost. Yes, you're going to have to figure out what material is. You're going to have to estimate your production, but those are really table stakes of successful business anyway. So
they are.
The hurdle that it shouldn't be the hurdle that it is for some. But
there's a lot of there's a lot of kind of unique things that we've been able to do in the cloud too, because we're in the cloud. I mean, one of the things is we read the drawings. So we read all the text off your drawings. And so let's say, you're responsible for the wood blocking on the project. Well, all you have to do is pull up your drawing set inside a Stack and type in wood blocking, and boom, there it highlights it, not only in the spec, but on the drawings as well. I mean, we hyperlink all the details. So you just click on a detail and it shows you the detail. So just a lot of little convenient things like that really accelerate the process, but also make you smarter about the project in less time. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Stack with you today, Chad, and hopefully some of your folks will jump in and give us a try.
Well, thank you, Phillip. I appreciate it. It's always great to catch up. Well, it's normally great to catch up with you. You have to get over how great your life is going right now, and then we get through that. Then it's good to talk to you. Otherwise, it's a bit humbling. So glad to see your successes, Ryan, and thanks for doing the software that you're doing and helping out a lot of contractors.
Good deal. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll talk again soon.
Okay. See you later.
Thanks for listening to Get the Intel. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.